Hello, and welcome to Legal Bites. If you're new here, my name is Alita. I'm a lawyer licensed in California and DC, and on this channel, we explain the law one bite at a time. We don't give legal advice, but we do talk about how the law works and try to look into our crystal ball to see how things might turn out. If you're enjoying this on YouTube, we'd love it if you could like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it with friends, all the great YouTube-y stuff. And if you want to listen while out and about, we're now offering our live streams in podcast form where you can leave a rating and review. Links are in the description below, as well as to our clips channel where you can find some of the best clips taken from our live streams. Otherwise, if you want to catch me elsewhere, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And if you want to support the channel, you can do so on Locals, Patreon, or by becoming a YouTube member, or by buying some really awesome Legal Bites merch. Again, all links are in the description below. And with that said, let's get into it. All right. Welcome everyone. Welcome back, Rick. Welcome back, Kurt. Welcome back, Bree. And welcome back to everybody in the chat. I see that there's already people chatting it up, and I know I apologize. We are a little bit late. I was dealing with a sudden realization that one of the stories I wanted to talk about is a little bit old. So it happens, right? So anyhow, we'll roll with it. It's fine. So Rick, how you doing? It's been a little bit since you've been on the channel.
I am doing great. Yeah, I think, what was the last thing we even talked about over here? I'm sure it was
maybe it was
video
Joe
games
Rogan?
and transactions related. We did do Joe Rogan, but that was a while back. Like that was a long form one we did.
Yeah. I may have had you back since then on something. I'm not sure.
We see each other like randomly. I can never remember what channel it's on. So
yeah. Well, I think maybe the last interaction was probably during the Jussie Smollett sentencing.
That's like all of the old school law tube was on that one, right? That was like 10 of us. Yeah. So yeah, I was on that one, which I thought was a 2-hour pop in and turned into what was
whole day.
7 hours. So no, thank you for having me back. We got some fun stuff to talk about. We got the internet's favorite wild card doing wild cardy things, and it'll be fun.
Yes. And welcome back, Bree. Happy to have you here. I know you were just on vacation.
Yes, I actually, thank you for having me back. I actually had to sleep in the airport the other day, so I'm just like all out of it still, but I'm happy to be back.
Oh no. Well, yeah, we're happy to have you here. And Kurt, welcome. Always a pleasure to have you here. How's it going?
It's all right.
That kind of energy we love about you.
Oh man, it's great. So let's so the Jussie Smollett story I believe is a little bit old, because what I saw was an article that turns out it was from 2019. So unless someone in the chat knows more than me, I see here 2012 Jameson, the lawyer in the Smollett case, in trouble, according to Ron Coleman. I mean, maybe he tweeted that out. I'm not sure, but the article now I just realized is from 2019. I totally wanted to talk about Tina Chen refusing service of a subpoena, but apparently that's old news. Anyhow, if there's anything new on that, guys, let us know, and I'll be happy to talk about it. But otherwise, we've got Cardi B. We've got a little bit of news on Cardi B. Another win for her. And
I enjoyed reading that order verbatim into the YouTubes as well.
Yes.
So I read it with all of its original wording for legal purity.
Exactly, and we'll go over it too. But as Rick said, Elon Musk, the wild card of the internet, right? He once again had some fun tweets that turned into more fun tweets that turned into owning a portion of Twitter. So let's talk about that first. Let's get into Elon Musk. So Rick, I love having you on to talk about all things tech and tech companies. You always have some really great takes. What are your thoughts on this whole situation? Or, I mean, I guess we could probably start with some context for people, right?
Sure. Well, I mean, Elon Musk now owns 9.2% of Twitter. So, I mean, like that's the context.
Yes.
In a relatively surprise purchase, apparently gathered over the course of the second half of March. and then made an SEC filing at the top of April here, which may or may not be compliant with the timing requirements of the SEC regulations. Depends. Like Obi-Wan Kenobi, it's from a certain point of view. I suspect his lawyers will argue it can be reported by the end of the month, but that's kind of really legal technical stuff that I don't know that we need to dive into too much. But he announces that the internet breaks down, right? Whether you love him or hate him, you have thoughts on Elon Musk. And I think about 700 culture pieces about the nature of free speech and Elon and SpaceX and Tesla and Twitter and YouTube and every other platform got dragged into just kind of what I usually consider pretty navel-gazing essays on the nature of things. And the very first thing I said was that 9.2% doesn't control Twitter. I mean, it's going to make him the most, the highest level shareholder, which gets you a seat at the table. As we saw, the next day, he agreed to a board seat with Twitter. But a single board seat, a 9.2% stake, people are projecting from there that he intends a takeover, that he intends to leverage something significant and material. And what I find with Elon Musk, whenever he's in the news, is that he's equal part serious and wants to affect change and wants to be in the media. And he's equal part, I don't know what you want to call it, troll, lulz guy. And that's one of the things that he's really run into against the SEC, right? When he says, I'm going to sell Tesla for $420, that's internet humor to some extent. And the SEC comes down hard on him because you can't actually say things like that because it tends to massage the market in various ways. And Elon knows this, right? People say, well, he wouldn't just do this for the lulz because he spent almost $3 billion. It's, well, what happened to the stock price when it's announced that he comes in? He knows he can just pop in and it takes a huge leap in stock price. And it's maybe not the most efficient thing to do, but then you're not risking much of anything when you have that kind of pedigree. So he knows that it's not a big financial risk to do this. And he wants to make a point, I think, bare minimum. Does that mean Twitter's going to change massively? The community guidelines are going to change massively. Free speech is now either, depending on which article you read, killed or revived. And does that all follow from that? I don't think it does. I think he wants to sit in the room. I think he wants to talk. I think he wants to be a part of those conversations and maybe change things on the edge. I think he wants to put the fear of God in the new CEO. I think that's been apparent since that went down. That it looks from the outside, and God knows I'm not in the room here, that he's friends with Jack and didn't like how the last 2 years went down in various ways. So does he want to put the fear of God in management? Yes. Does he seem to like that kind of saber rattling functionality he has? Yes. He has a history of rolling in and making people nervous and scared.
Absolutely.
Does that mean that Twitter is going to fundamentally change? Don't know. But certainly in terms of getting to control, in terms of Elon's Twitter happening, you're looking at gathering another $45 billion to clear that margin. And you wouldn't do that risk individually. He's not liquid that much, right? One of the interesting things about this whole story is that, first of all, like 3/4 of his wealth is in Tesla stock. He then asks last year, should I liquidate some of my Tesla stock? He asked Twitter, because again, he's trolling, he's having fun. That was almost always his plan.
Yeah, he had to for tax reasons.
Well,
because he had the biggest tax bill in the history of time.
Well, after the liquidation, right? So he's also politicizing even that move. So every time he says anything about that, he talks about unrealized gains and being taxed. And if you actually look at the timing here for when the Biden administration announces that they're going to look carefully at an unrealized gain tax. And when he starts collecting Twitter, they're very close in time. So he's making a number of points all at once, some of which are clear, some of which are not. And it's just, in my experience, you can guess the way certain things are going to work. I just put up a video today about Lina Khan's FTC and Microsoft and Activision. It's like, yeah, you could kind of see this going that way, regardless of how I feel about it. Elon Musk is one of those personalities I don't think you can guess at. I think you're just going to be left in the lurch because I think he changes his mind. And $3 billion isn't that much to him. It sounds weird to say, but it's worth it to just get that press coverage, in all honesty. I mean, he was in tens of thousands of articles for the last week.
When you have $3 billion for the memes, you know you've done something right in your life.
Well, yeah, I mean, he got in right. Depending on how much credit you want to give him for these various initiatives, he's gotten in and made equity money off of the accruing value of the various companies he's been involved with. So I don't begrudge him that. He's not my favorite personality in the world. That might make your commenters mad or happy, depending. But he certainly puts his money where his mouth is, and his mouth is in a great many places.
Absolutely, he does. And he's just such an interesting character, because even just following his tweets, when he is making a joke, I'm not always entirely sure that I'm understanding the joke. I don't know if it's just for him or for the people that are following him. I almost feel like he's just amusing himself most of the time.
I think that's right. I mean, the lulls are his, not other people's, I don't think. But certainly he has attracted a very interesting cult of personality. Like even in my video, where I don't really say anything bad about him, I mostly just say, well, this is an interesting tact, and it doesn't mean that the Twitter is going to change. That's just basically what I've just said. You get a lot of commenters that are like, you are disgracing, our Lord God Elon Musk, and I'm like, well, gee whiz, I don't, I think it could go well, it could go poorly. It's interesting. There's very few people on Earth that either have the resources to do something like this or would want to. So you get interesting fights like that. You get Jeff Bezos's Washington Post criticizing Elon Musk's move to take over Twitter, as the editorial is about like controlling media and thought. I'm like, that's a
weird take from you, Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, you got a tech oligarch's newspaper deriding a tech oligarch's attempt to take a 10% interest in a social media platform. Interesting. We live in interesting times on this stuff.
Yeah.
The only thing that surprised me, because I wasn't exactly paying attention, but the implied value of Twitter at $30 billion. It's like, really? Twitter's worth $30 billion?
And that's a significant dip. I mean, the other argument here is that he's buying on a dip, and he's actually investing in Twitter, because Twitter was worth a lot more like 6 months before his purchase, when Twitter started having all the trouble with the CEO and effectively going out to the public and saying that all of our user acquisition stats are decreasing substantially. So they were up, I don't know, I want to say like double what he bought at, something along those lines in the last year. So you could view it as a Microsoft Activision type acquisition, where it's like, well, if I want to get in there, I can have the lulls, I can make my voice known, I can get the media coverage, people can refer to my history of tech ownership, and maybe I just invested in something that can double again, and that's what I do. My stock accrues. That's Elon Musk.
So it was interesting to me, kind of watching this happen in real time, because this is basically how it started. Was he started with a tweet, where he's talking about free speech is essential to a functioning democracy. Do you believe Twitter rigorously adheres to this principle? And I remember seeing this in real time when he tweeted this out, and I was like, what is this about? What the heck is Elon getting at? Kind of interesting. People talk about it from time to time, but like, why this? Why now? Why is he taking a poll on this? I just thought
that's after, if you look at that date, that's after he'd already started his acquisitions.
Oh, it is?
Yep.
Okay. The consequences.
So his actual announcement, I want to say, is March 14. I can look up that document, but it's right in the middle of March. And then he starts signaling this stuff. And then I think it was the Babylon Bee that came out and said that he had been in contact with them, like almost contemporaneous to their banning by Twitter, that he got upset about that, at least according to the folks behind that site.
Interesting.
And could be the impetus. I mean, this is the thing, right? I try to analyze things and, okay, this is how rational businesses work. This is what these things think. This is an individual that can wield $200 billion. So there are whims. People have whims. People think that's important. I'm going to go do this, or I'm going to do that, or I'm going to make myself laugh, or I'm going to make some serious point. And Elon Musk is very willing to do that. So it's very difficult to predict. But that is after he started his acquisitions.
Okay. But was it before it went public though, right? Because you've got people asking him to like, please buy Twitter, things like that. But yeah, because to me, from my recollection, I saw this first and then heard that he had bought a bunch of Twitter.
Yeah, no, the SEC filing comes out, I want to say like April 2nd.
Okay.
And he was supposed to file within 10 days of him starting the acquisition. I believe the date he gives is March 14th. I can check on the documents. It's sometime mid-March.
Okay.
And I mean, that's part of the discussion, because I'm not going to get into SEC regulations, primarily because there are specialist lawyers that do just SEC filing stuff. But there are rules that say you have to file when you take more than the 5% ownership interest in a period of time, and you have 10 days to do it, which this would be after. But there are other rules depending on whether you're a qualified inside investor and other things that happen where you can actually file that document within X amount of days after the end of the month in which you made the purchase. I suspect his lawyers are doing that kind of thing, and or he really hates the SEC and doesn't care. I mean, we know he hates the SEC. Like this has come up again and again and again. He just accused them of violating his free speech rights for making him adhere to a settlement decree that he signed up to. He's that kind of guy.
Okay. Bree, did you have any thoughts on this whole series of events?
Yeah, no, I'm not a super big stocks person, but I do think Elon Musk, he likes to be in the media. So I feel like that could be a part of it. And I think the poll is very interesting that he did the poll on free speech as if he's going to be able to adjust the free speech that goes on Twitter. So I definitely would like to see how it plays out.
Yeah, no, for sure. And since then, it also has been reported that he's been appointed to the board of directors. So
right.
there's
a promise not to buy more than 15% of the company.
Right, under a restriction agreement. Yeah.
Yes.
Which I'm not sure how to feel about that one way or another, to be honest.
Well, it's almost illusory, right? So if you don't adhere to that, you're in breach of a contract with what penalty? You're not on the board anymore. So if he wants to make his move, he just explodes with a move. I mean, it's designed to look a certain way and potentially bring someone up in court, but you can't control a public company that way very effectively.
Yeah,
so he agrees to it right now.
Up in court who now owns the company.
Right.
So like, we're going to sue you. No, you're not.
Right. Well, because this would probably be hostile from everything that we can tell on the outside. So he'd be going above the board and he'd be buying publicly traded stocks anyway. And so it's useful. It's useful for a number of reasons, one of which is because Elon Musk filed the short form document with the IRS that said, I'm not buying this to take control of the company. So it's useful to affirm that.
But he filed an amended form.
Did he file an amended form afterwards?
So it's he's no longer listed as passive. He changed his mind retroactively.
Sure. I mean, like, see, the SEC, these are things that a normal person, the SEC would be coming down on fairly hard. So, not filing the right form, changing the dates, changing your status. If you don't have $200 billion and a regular lawyer or law firm on retainer to just fight the SEC, which Elon Musk does, you'd be in a different state.
But memeing the SEC is funny.
Well, the SEC.
I didn't know that was an option.
As much as Elon Musk
I didn't know you can meme the federal government, but apparently you can.
Yeah. Well, we could have a whole episode about what does $200 billion do for you, and having a big chip stack at the table is very, very helpful, regardless, even against the U.S. government. So yeah, I didn't know that he amended it. Doesn't really surprise me because that he plays fast and loose with these kinds of things, and that's kind of compliance where he knows the economics here, which is like, do you really want to challenge me on this and go through that process and spend that money and spend those resources when everything is actually pretty out in the open? And the answer is probably no, except that the SEC probably has a target board with your face on it somewhere in their office building. So yeah, no. And you saw, talking about free speech, you saw right after he got that board seat, he goes out and says, you guys want an edit button? So in terms of like the reporting on this about what kind of control he has and everything else, he feeds into the misnomer of exactly how much leverage he has over Twitter.
I have an
that's what he likes.
I need to bail for now.
Oh, sure.
I might be back.
Okay.
Science.
Hey, Kurt.
I understand.
Thanks for joining us. Yeah. Well, let me get the super chat here from Dragon's Treasure, because it's related to the conversation. Let's say Musk convinces Twitter to remove all bans from the big personalities, Trump, Alex Jones, etc. What will midterms and hit pieces look like?
It's a tough hypothetical for me because I view this as one of the rare zero chance percentages that I would give on this type of stuff. He just doesn't have that kind of pull. So yeah, I think the really egregious stuff, the New York Post laptop banning and prevention from sharing those things and giving error messages, I think you can see potentially changes there, where like the really bad stuff that I think even Twitter acknowledges went too far, you might see controlled a little bit better. But in terms of unbanning people, I think if he's going to have any success, it would be on the edges. I've talked in Virtual Legality a lot about how the terms of service and community guidelines of all these platforms, but Twitter is one of the big ones, are way too ambiguous. And like the first thing that they did when they installed their new CEO was have that private media rule, where if you don't get consent to everybody that might be appearing in the background, then we can pull it and ban you and that kind of stuff. And how that gives way too much authority to Twitter. So I think you could see rollbacks there. It's going to be very interesting because it's a barbarians at the gate kind of setup where you want to keep him calm. You want to listen to him. If you're Twitter, you want to make him feel like he's being heard. And mostly you don't want to just give up the reins of running the company. So it's going to be that interesting tussle. It'll be a fascinating first board meeting to sit in on.
Yeah. Well, speaking of barbarians at the gate.
Yeah.
Welcome, Nate.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Yes.
To be clear, she made that metaphor, Nate. I didn't think you were barbarian.
The intros are getting good.
I know. I'm trying to really latch onto something to bring people in.
You guys are crazy.
So Nate, we've been talking about Elon Musk.
Oh my God! Yeah, the whole buying Twitter. I was listening outside. I don't know. It's this whole free speech. I understand what he wants to do. Right? He wants to make the platform more speech friendly. But I don't know. I think everybody just has this weird thing about free speech. Just imagine 20 years ago or 10 years ago when MySpace was around and they were the biggest game in town. And then everybody would be like, oh, free speech on MySpace, free speech, MySpace. And then the next day, MySpace is gone. And now we're talking about Facebook, right? This is the reason why when you're talking about free speech, usually you're not talking about these private companies because it shifts so quickly where today, this is a new fad, but tomorrow it could easily be something else. And I think when we talk about free speech, I understand wanting to have private individuals and private corporations do what you want them to do. But in a capitalistic society, they don't, right? And don't get me wrong, I have most of my stuff demonetized by YouTube. I've gotten suspended by Twitter. But on the opposite end, they are kind of free to do it. And it's the market economy that I think we all live in that we kind of want that to happen, right? So,
but this is literally the capitalistic response, right? This is the super capitalistic response where you say, okay, it's a private company. It's publicly traded. I happen to have $3 billion and I'm going to go get my voice at the table at the company. I mean, that's capitalistic.
That's the way. And I'm agreeing. I think that's the way you should do it. If you are unhappy with the way these places and you got the money, go buy their shares and make it happen. But I'm just concerned about the whole, people want to make this like the government should, or the court should come in and force them to change their policies and to give more free speech. Well, they shouldn't have done. I don't think they should have did that with MySpace. MySpace was popular because look what happened with that. And I think when you have private companies, if we love, when the right always talks about socialists and being afraid of socialists, this is what they're talking about, right? This is the socialism they should be afraid of, and let the market dictate what ideas and stuff come to the marketplace. But on the back end, what the Biden administration and things are doing about labeling certain things that they don't like as misinformation, I think that's wrong, and I think that should stop. But just as the overall principle, I'm not too sure if this is really a fight for free speech in the way Elon Musk is portraying it.
Right.
Well, I think you talk about an important item there, which is that state actor concept, right? And I think both administrations, both Biden and Trump, kind of got real close to this line of having a press conference and saying, we'd really like you to handle this Facebook and this Twitter. And you're getting pretty close to at least implicit threats, especially as Congress and the executive looks at things like antitrust and consolidation reform. So I do think, I agree with you, by the way. I think that people should generally be okay with private companies doing what they want on this stuff and criticizing them if you're unhappy with their policies, as I do so often on my channel, but ultimately understanding that it's not the government acting. I do, however, think that there are spaces, perhaps with some of the medical related fields that I try not to mention for risk of randomly demonetizing channels I appear on, that's saying things that are against the party line. And I say that as the US government, not really any specific political party, is co-opting these businesses in some way, often with their direct approval, but often not. So I do think you get close to some lines there. And so I'm not against saying, hey, Twitter's rules are too ambiguous. Twitter's doing these various things that are probably bad, or Facebook or YouTube or whoever. And what can be done about it? I agree with you that it shouldn't be laws and regulations in most cases. But I don't have an issue with Elon Musk doing this really any more than I would have from whatever the opposite of Elon Musk is, with money and a desire to buy their portion of Twitter.
Right. No, I definitely agree with that. And it is interesting to see for some people out in the social media interwebs, some of their perspectives sort of shift from some people, because some folks that have been saying like, no, like Twitter can totally ban people. Twitter can basically modify and slap warning labels on people's speech and all this kind of stuff. They can do that because they're a private company, First Amendment, blah, 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 and then all of a sudden when it's Elon Musk that's buying it, then they're like, oh no, I don't know how I feel about a billionaire, making these decisions on what free speech is, which is like, if you're saying that, then you didn't believe what you were saying in the first instance. So at least, at least be consistent with what it is that you're saying and maybe understand what it is that you're saying, because that's the truth is that a policy is a policy regardless of who's enforcing it. Right. So, if it's something that you would have a problem with being enforced by somebody who you don't agree with, then maybe you don't so much agree with the policy, you just kind of agree with the ends rather than the means. So, but I do definitely agree that this is a private companies are fully able to manage their speech how they want to. Section 230 gives a lot of space, a lot of leeway, and a lot of strength to these platforms to do that. And they are able to craft their terms of service and their community guidelines basically however they want in order to do that. So, if people have a problem with that, it's not so much about a free speech issue. It's more about a Section 230 issue, which we love bringing up on this channel from time to time. It's been a while since we talked about Section 230.
Yeah, that's you at home.
Yeah. No, I mean, 230 has its own problems, right? I think it's got overbreadth for allowances for what essentially you're just uncomfortable with. But yeah, to me, that is totally right. However, while I agree that tech changes hands pretty rapidly, and that's one of the things that I talk about with respect to antitrust and mergers and acquisitions law, I do think there is a certain amount of entrenchment that we have seen kind of coalesce in the last even just decade with network effects and things. And it wouldn't surprise me if Elon's thought process is something along the lines of, all right, maybe I will just build my own because I can liquidate to $100 billion or whatever. And then looking at the way these things work and said, it would be cheaper for me to buy Twitter. Or to impact Twitter because of the network effects, because the people that are already addicted to it use it, whatever you want to frame Twitter people as. And it was just a real surprise to me. It should never be a surprise, but it always is, when my timeline on Twitter on Monday was effectively Elon is going to destroy free speech and Elon is the savior free speech needs, like in a row. It's Vox and it's Reason and it's Fox and it's Slate and it's whoever. And it's just, it's not okay. So I think you make the exact right point, Alita, which is one of the things I like to say to people whenever we're talking about an executive order or a legal principle or anything else is like, just imagine it being wielded by the worst person you know. I don't care whether that's Trump. I don't care whether that's Biden or somebody else you hate more. Just imagine whatever principle you just espoused being used by your enemy, right? And this Elon Musk thing appears to have triggered that in some people. Like, oh my God, if Elon can do that, or if he can go up to 15%, or if he can go to 51%, then he's just in charge of Twitter. And then you wonder if all those articles reverse to what Nate doesn't want, which is we need to regulate that. And the sides flip or something along those lines. See, I don't think Elon is actually that easily put into a political persuasion box. So I'm not sure that anybody would be happy. But like you do wonder if it suddenly becomes, no, they're a free company. They can do what they like. And then no, something must be done, like from the very same sources. And that's what I tend to hate. I tend to hate hypocrisy. But it's a very interesting state of affairs because it's just so rare that you can see one person and their psychological whims do something like this.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. Let me get a few super chats here. Get caught up. 2012 Jameson says, I sent you some DM on crazy stuff just now. Thank you. I'll check it out for sure. Anti-commie says, prawn, okay. Right-wing opinions bannable. Okay, bro. I suppose. Okay.
Yeah, I feel sympathy for that one because I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Whenever I can do a video, if it's right leaning, it's in trouble. If it's left leaning, it's. But again, it's sad that we live in a world like this. But we have to. I think there has to be some way where we can compete. If this is the way people feel, the same people who are saying all this stuff about Twitter, Facebook, are the same people who, as soon as they end this conversation, are going to go use Facebook, Twitter, and Google, right? Are going to support them. And I know it's tough because then when you have new platforms, those new platforms, it's tough for them to grow and all that stuff. So it's like you're in this as well. But the only way you're going to beat these companies is through competition. I just don't think legislation is going to be the way.
Yeah, no, for sure. And also, thank you, Dragon's Treasure. I didn't realize. Yeah, prawn is it's an intended typo. I didn't realize that for illicit material. So thank you. I didn't put that together.
Material. Still legal illicit material for the most part.
Or I guess maybe not illicit, but I guess smut. We'll just call it smut.
And don't forget to treat that like button like Chris Rock and smack it hard.
Oh my gosh, have you been using that line? My goodness.
Thank you, Nate. Thank you. And Ola Kyle says, the moment they start controlling the information disseminated, they move from a platform to a publisher. The problem is that they want to act like a publisher while claiming to be a platform. Which that is not. That's not what Section 230 says. What's that, Nate?
No, he's got to read the CompuServe case. Read the CompuServe case, and you'll see what.
I'm sympathetic to this reading of 230 a little bit because there is that definition of information provider includes essentially massaging it, and I do think that there's some level that I think everybody agrees at where if Twitter were just banning every notion of a specific political stripe and leaving up everything else, that they have created the sculpture by chipping away the rest of the marble in a fashion that you would get in trouble. There's a line somewhere on the way outside that we're not really that close to that I think people get confused by. And honestly, 230, if it does get revised and they don't want to change anything substantive, they should probably include the words publisher and platform and actually define them using information service provider and information and internet service provider and information provider, because that's how everybody thinks about them now because of the internet. So it might be a little bit more clear for the actual body politic if they use that language, and it explained why it's not what they think it is.
A quick question: isn't it also true that like a Christian website who hosts information, 230 would apply to them, right? As long as they are upfront about being a Christian platform, they can still monitor content and wouldn't be a publisher in that sense, right?
Everybody can monitor content. The worst people on earth on the deep web or whatever are protected by 230 if they don't want your reasoned propaganda on their channel. That description of stuff that they can moderate is inclusive of basically everything ever. It's stuff that you don't like,
and
that's part of the problem.
And it includes not just the people that are running that website, running the platform, but also the people that are participating on it, that they are also able to moderate, what they see, like you can delete your own tweet. You can block people, you can mute people, you can delete different comments, from time to time if you want, if you so choose, if you think, I don't really like that person's insult on my video. And yes, I know I say a lot, but I don't want to hear about it. I don't do that, but I could if I wanted to, and it would be well within Section 230. What's that?
Ridiculous. You get complaints in your comments?
Yeah, from time to time. It's something that I'm working on. I'm still not quite there yet, but
people, man,
those are light. You light complaints. You can get the complaints. You damn communist mother effer. I'm like, what?
Oh, I like Trump. I have gotten a number of comments that affiliate me with certain mid 20th century European regimes that I find a little untoward, frankly.
Oh man. Let me get a couple more here. MC, thank you so much for the super chat. And Alexander Hamrick said, sticker. Nate made me smack that like button, so you better keep our wife's name out your mouth. Oh, man.
I'm watching G.I. Jane for your brother. I'm watching G.I. Jane.
Oh, my goodness.
Nate is also on vacation right now. That's probably the biggest reason why we can't see him right now. But I appreciate you joining us while you're on vacation.
That is because I don't want my 5-year-old, my 6-year-old who's running around naked. Every time I turn on the camera, she's Daddy, I was also talking to. So I don't want to.
I appreciate that because that's a quick way to get my channel yeeted.
Oh, sad world.
So let's talk about, unless there's anything else you guys want to talk about related to Elon Musk.
No, I just think it was overreported a little bit, and we'll see what happens. And like I said, he feeds into it. Like he wants you to think he owns Twitter right now. I think even your title of your video is like Elon buys Twitter, which I was like, Alita, you're gonna get me in trouble. Twitter. It's technically correct. It's totally fine. He did in fact buy Twitter shares.
Yes. There's also only so many characters you can put into a title.
That's true.
You're limited to 100, so I was like, but I will say,
so.
What's that?
I said any title has to have an element of clickbait to it, right? It's got to be true, but you know what I'm saying? People's got to want to click that. So
it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. It's just I saw the title when you started promoting the video, and I was like, oh man, my people are gonna get mad at me.
I'm sorry about that.
That's all right. My people get mad at me no matter what. It doesn't matter.
So the one last thing about Elon Musk is that it was pointed out to me that Elon Musk also has a tendency to get ahead of sort of bad news that he knows is coming by doing something crazy or salacious. So, to get people talking about either something really positive or something just kind of crazy. And so this is it could be anything, but one thing that is on my radar, as you guys know, anybody who's been, anywhere near my channel probably knows that I've been paying a lot of attention to the Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard trial. He is going to be a witness in that trial.
Yeah.
He had a relationship with Amber Heard right after Johnny Depp. There's a lot of questions. Number one, about maybe he funded her supposed donation to the ACLU, because there's this claim. So she won a $7 million divorce settlement from Johnny Depp. And she claimed, she went on to a Danish TV show, claimed that she donated the entire $7 million to charity, half of it to the ACLU, half of it to the Children's Hospital of Los Angeles. She donated $0 to the Children's Hospital of Los Angeles. And there's questions about like a $100,000 payment to the ACLU that happened while she was in a relationship with Elon Musk. There's questions about if he actually paid that on her behalf, in her name or something for her while they were together, because what's $100,000 among rich friends, right?
I figure you could just sit on Elon Musk's couch and there's $100,000 bill that might just be there. I don't.
That he prints specially for you.
just put an Elon head. Recognizable in various countries.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I had no idea that. It's going to be a wild trial.
And there's also a second question that's sort of been swirling around. So about a year ago, Amber Heard suddenly magically had a baby. She said that it was by a surrogate, so she didn't have any kind of pregnancy or anything. And then she just started kind of posing with this baby in pictures on social media. But it was like a total surprise baby in the middle of this litigation. Now, I personally am very suspicious of surprise babies during litigation because, Elizabeth Holmes had a baby in the middle of her whole criminal trial and everything. So it was delayed. And that was, I think, very much a sympathy baby. I think that there's a possibility that could be the case here. There's also a question that Elon Musk might be the father of the surrogate baby. There's a possibility. So I don't know.
Your topics really go places. I gotta tell you. Wow. No, see, I had thought you'd say, hey, getting in front of things. I know Elon's getting sued in various places for employment issues. California's mad at him.
And it could be those other things.
There's various things that could pop up there.
Nothing to do with.
No, yours is much more salacious. Hey.
Yeah, no, it could have to do with, like, and this is even sort of all speculation, really, right? Because maybe there's nothing going on for him that's going to come out. Maybe everything is great, everything's wonderful, and he's going to Mars in 20 years, but if there is something that he's sort of getting in front of, the question is, what is that? It could totally be employment claims. It could totally be some issues with, the I don't know, batteries in Teslas exploding, or I don't know, something. So it could be something along those. Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, when I was looking at it, I thought there may be like a little pump and dump action going on here. For those of you who don't know, like he'll buy up 7%, then all of a sudden the stock it went up like 25%.
Yeah,
and dumps them on the market, and now you've made. And then that just happened recently with AMC, where they had the hedge fund come in by like 100 million shares. Then the next day they dumped them all on the market when the price went up. So, but I'm not saying he's doing that, but it's very possible. It's big name, a lot of
Well, I mean, the funny thing there is we can't have a statute protecting against a pump and dump that is just your name attached to a stock, right? He didn't say anything much about it at all. So I bought a bunch of stock. It pops up 25% because activists like to follow me around. He's a walking pump and dump, and there's nothing the SEC can do about it. It's part of where the friction comes from a little bit.
Right. Because he didn't tell anyone to buy it. He just bought it.
Well, what we see is institutionals follow him. There's a big jump. So it doesn't look like insider trading. It doesn't look like anything like that. There's an enormous jump as an unexpected event in the market. And then instead of kind of either going straight or going down a little bit as people reassess what it bounced to, it actually goes up. So there's purchases following him. He's got a trailing purchase kind of somebody's running a fund that just says invest what Elon invests in, or something along those lines. You see State Street probably got in more. I would bet that BlackRock got in more. You got Twitter now is a target for activist investors, which it always was. Twitter's had activist investors problems for at least 5 years. And so Elon, one of the most potentially activist of activist investors, essentially either convinces people to say, hey, this value is going to go up, I'm going to save the company, or other institutional investors come in and say, we need to shore up our position. We either need to fight him, we need to go with him, but it's going to be potentially a fight. And maybe it won't be. We don't know. But you saw that kind of signaling function of other people getting in after him and after a significant price bump.
Yeah. So it's but it'll be interesting to see if anything follows from this. But we'll see. Anyhow, shall we talk about Cardi B?
Absolutely. Why not?
Let's do it. Okay, so for anyone that has not been following the Cardi B versus Tasha K lawsuit / trial, Cardi B won big against Tasha K for defamation because Tasha K was making all kinds of claims on YouTube to her millions of subscribers. I want to say multi-millions. Got a big
she
channel.
Just cracked 1 million. She's got like 1.1 mil.
Oh, okay.
She
all right.
Because she lost, and then she was over 1 million, and then she dropped under 1 million during the trial, and then now she's back up.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, Tasha K, she's making it happen.
Yeah, well, also making some things unhappen because so after Cardi B won big, including punitive damages, I mean, this jury decided that they hated Tasha K because of what she was saying about Cardi B, and she just admitted on the stand that she had actual malice. Like, she basically knew that what she was saying was probably not true, and she wanted to say it anyway.
I'm gonna disagree with you real quick, Alita. That wasn't a trial. Okay. That was an execution. They just walked. And the defendant's on the stand saying, "I said it. I knew it was lies, and I said it for profit." What more do you need in a defamation case? They literally didn't need to put on anyone else but Tasha K. She said she said it, knew it was false, did it to harm the girl's reputation, and got paid to do it. Right? It's like that was no trial. That was how much are you going to have to pay? That was all they needed to do. Even the judge, before he sent it to the jury, even the judge says, "Well, why is this going to a jury? This is obvious here."
Well, now she wants to appeal it, so she still doesn't think she's wrong.
I know. Well, and I think most likely, what happened was, well, I don't know if Tasha K even really made any good faith settlement offers, but I know that or I would imagine at least that Cardi B was just like, I don't care how much you offer. I want to go to trial. I want my name to be cleared. I want everyone to know that you are lying. And I think that's the case with most of these defamation cases.
Just to clear it up, what happened with this trial with the Cardi B initially, before she sued, went to Tasha K and was like, hey, just take this stuff down. This person you had up fooled you. Initially, she said yes. Then they didn't do it. Whatever happened, didn't do it. Then they went to trial. Then again, Cardi B was like, hey, listen, you just take everything out and issue retraction. We're done, right? There's no, I don't need any money from you. You know, this is it. And Tasha K refused to take it down because she had then went to, and this came out of the trial. In the trial, she had asked her, well, if you don't want to just take it down, what can we do? And then Tasha K said, if you want me to take down the videos that I know are false, that I know I've said false things, that I know are defamatory to you, you got to cut me a check because those videos got millions of views. So if you don't want those videos up, you got to cut me a check for the revenue I would lose for those videos. That's why the trial kept going on, because she refused. And then even after she lost, she refused to take the video down. And obviously that's what we're going into now with the injunction.
Yes. Yeah. And just a note on the chat, guys, I started to get some bots that were held by review, but I know that the mods are having to deal with that. So I put on subscribers only mode. Sorry if people are annoyed by that. But so the judge ended up telling the defendants, in this case, Tasha K and her LLC or whatever, that she had to take down the videos that where she had been talking about Cardi B. And then Tasha K decided that not only was she appealing, because she, of course, was correct in her ability to say what she wanted to say. I honestly have no idea what her basis of appeal is going to be. But there was a notice of appeal that was filed. And then there's going to be a briefing schedule that's going to be coming out in the coming weeks. But so she has continued to talk on YouTube and basically make all the same claims, all the same stuff. She just keeps yammering. And the thing is that if you continue to do that, then judges are also going to start putting an injunction on you to say that you can't talk about somebody. And this is, people have asked me, especially in regards to the Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard trial, people have been asking me about, if Johnny Depp were to win, would he be able to essentially put a gag order on her not talking about him ever again in public? And I said that in order to do that, there has to be basically a strong continuation of the previous behavior. She has to go around and continue calling him, white beater, domestic abuser, like that kind of thing. She has to continue going around and doing it, because courts are going to be very sensitive to somebody's ability to go around and speak freely, right? We're talking about free speech rights here. But obviously you don't have the ability to protect a defamatory statement. The First Amendment does not protect that, obviously. But anyhow, but in this case, because she's been going around and continuing the same behavior, continuing the same defamatory statements that a jury has found were defamatory, Cardi B filed a motion for a permanent injunction against her and won. So the court has ordered that she must take down all. Let me just share this. Let me share this here. I will share my screen. And, oh, nope, not that one. Whoops. Hang on. Let me do it this way. Sorry, guys. Give me 1 minute. I totally had this queued up. Oh, StreamYard, you're doing it to me again. Okay, here we go. Stipulated order granting permanent injunction. The jury in this action rendered, the jury in this action rendered a verdict in favor of plaintiff Belcalis Marlenis Almanzar, plaintiff, also known as Cardi B, on her claims against defendants Tasha K and Kibi Studios LLC for defamation, false light, and intentional infliction of emotional distress, which is set forth in the judgment of this court dated February 17th, 2022. The judgment currently is the subject of an appeal filed by defendants in the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. Before this court is plaintiff's request for a permanent injunction, and the parties have agreed to the entry of a permanent injunction on the following terms. I mean, it's almost kind of humorous, but obviously it's sad because somebody is very much upset about these statements being made. But here's here's where it continues. The court orders as follows. It is ordered that defendants and all persons acting in concert or participation with them are each permanently enjoined from publishing or republishing on the internet or otherwise the following statements that were judged false and defamatory by the jury in this action. Number 1, plaintiff engaged in prostitution. Number 2, plaintiff has herpes. Number 3, plaintiff has HPV. 4, plaintiff uses or used cocaine. 5, plaintiff performed a debasing act with a beer bottle. 6, plaintiff committed adultery. Defamatory statements subject to this permanent injunction include, but are not limited to, the following statements that were published by defendants. Plaintiff is a prostitute or prostituted. Plaintiff sold, I'll just say female anatomy. Plaintiff has herpes. Plaintiff has cold sores. Herpes B with and without the space. Cold sore B with without the spaces. Plaintiff has HPV. Plaintiff uses or has used cocaine or is a cokehead. Plaintiff placed beer bottles up her female anatomy. Plaintiff committed adultery by effing or sleeping with somebody other than her husband. Plaintiff has a side peen. I don't even know what a side peen is. Maybe I'm sure somebody in the chat will say that. Somebody other than plaintiff's husband is doing something to her female anatomy. Okay, so basically, and then it lists all of the specific videos by name that need to be taken down. I mean, this is crazy. I can't imagine. I mean, look at all these videos, all of these titles that that the court said, okay, you got to take all this down. But it's nuts to me that somebody has been handed so sound a defeat, and yet they continue talking, and at the same time, like you're appealing, but on what basis? I can't understand that.
I would love to see what the appeal is based on. And I also feel sorry that the judges potentially have to watch those videos after dealing with her in court and just seeing that it's just the type of person she is and the way she talks and really doesn't feel any remorse about it. Yeah.
Rick, what are your thoughts? I know you haven't really talked about this case much.
I haven't followed.
And this usually isn't what you talk about.
I haven't followed the substance of it, so I knew that it happened. I saw that when you get $1 million verdict that quickly on a defamation claim, which I'm generally in my space telling people are very hard to win, because usually people are at least somewhat careful about these kinds of things. You call somebody a racist or a sexist or a misogynist or an alt-right or whatever, a lib, whatever you want to say, that those aren't really defamatory statements. That's one of the things I have to work through with people, is that those are opinions and we don't have a great definition of those things. So it's harder to make those things. Everything that you just read or had to not read because of its nature, my thought process was, what kind of business are you running where that comes up at that level, where you have tweets and videos and I mean, this is part, I think I watched a video that you did on it, where there's a admittance that part or portion of these are actual lies, like by the defendant, that she knew she was lying.
Yeah, she admitted that on the stand.
Yes.
That's a choice. That's a choice. But yeah, I think, we could get into all sorts of cultural discussions here, but it's interesting to see that a person can be either oblivious or just so desirous of power or belief in their own position that they just say, oh, court decision, $4 million, well, whatever. And I'll just keep those things up, because at that point you've lost. I mean, even if you're delusional enough to think you can win and you can go on the stand and say these various things about whether you lied or not, at the point that you've lost, isn't that a reassessment? Isn't that an inflection point where you say, I best think about what's happened? And I'm obviously a different person than the defendant here. But heck, everything that I put up, I'm like, did I say anything that could possibly be taken the wrong way? Did I do anything that I don't have knowledge of? Did I properly say allegedly when I'm discussing cases and things like that? And I do a spot check, even though most of that is going to either be, simple scrivener's errors or not get anybody up in ire. Even if I did something that way, it's just hard to believe that you would make a business, and that you said they have 1 million subscribers or something like that, with a tabloid approach that you're lying about, that you get called to task, and you don't at least change your ways for this plaintiff, right? Okay, maybe you don't change your whole business model, but you now know this plaintiff is a litigation risk. You know what she's bringing to the party. Then you opt out because, I mean,
yeah,
you don't want the court to have to go through and tell you, when we said it, we meant it. Take the stuff down.
And the thing is too, is that, looking at after the verdict, I went back to her channel and looked at a lot of the comments on her videos, and especially one of the central videos that was at issue. And I saw all the comments where people were like, "Ooh, you had it coming. You had it coming. You had it coming." Basically like so many comments where people were just like, "I'm so excited that you lost. I'm, siding with Cardi B on that litigation." And I think that there are a lot of people, and maybe not everyone, maybe this isn't satisfactory to everyone, but there are a lot of people that probably would have looked at this and if she had come out with a video saying, okay, I thought that what I was doing was okay. I was wrong. I made a huge mistake. It's something
remorse.
To learn from it. Yeah,
we love remorse in the United States. We love second chances. You come out and say, well, look, this was always intended to be a satirical channel, and I never intended to have these things come out as kind of facts. I see where I went wrong, and I'm going to fall on my sword. Far. Yeah.
I always want to make this as salacious and interesting and attention grabbing, of course, because that's what's exciting, that's what's fun, that's what we love to talk about. And I just took it a little too far. You can totally do that, and so many people would have been like, okay, we're good. Well, you can say them as metaphors. You have suffered enough.
Even the statements that you said, you could say them as it's like this horrible thing that you shouldn't say, or you can do that, and it doesn't make you a good person. I'm not going to love your channel, but you can avoid potential legal claims. And it's the doubling down, right? And it's the doubling down. It's not just her. You see it across all sorts of things. It's the doubling down in various sentencing hearings we watched. It's the doubling down in other things that are happening around everywhere, where it's like, wow. You do have a massive disrespect, some of it earned, some of it not, for institutions in general. And that appears to be going towards the law and courts and all of that as one. So I think there's a personality type or maybe a generational thing that says, well, yeah, sure, a court said I was liable. Sure, they have a $4 million number on that. But, I'm the arbiter of my own morality, and it makes me money. So what are they really going to do about it? It's like, you don't. So the courts actually can really do something about it. You shouldn't challenge them after the conclusion of the case. But
speaking of arbiters of morality,
this is Cardi B country.
No, this is not Cardi B country. Get out of here with your white splaining. No, get out of here. You got to do it with the Nigerian voice and everything, brother.
I'm working on it. I
had to look up that she's a rapper, so I apologize. I'm exposed.
But you know what though? With this Cardi B thing, I think most people are forgetting something. All right, so there's a lot of people might be in the chat who doesn't understand the YouTube game. A lot of times you get one story that blows you up. Now I've been fortunate to have a couple of stories. For instance, the U.S. soccer obviously was the big one for me, but then the Breonna Taylor one too. I did a video and it blew up. And when you have a story like that that's kind of attached to your channel where you're covering, then it makes it harder for you to kind of walk away from that story. And Tasha K, for instance, only had something like 30 or 40,000 subscribers before she started talking about Cardi B. And that blew her up to 1 million subscribers. So that's why she had all these videos. That's why she was saying all these things. That's why she even jumped the gun when she was told, hey, these stories might be fake. She was like, I want to say it anyway because this is how my channel is growing. Now you got to the point where you got 1 million subs, you've gotten sued, and your channel is dependent on you talking about Cardi B, right? That's what got you here. So it's going to be hard for this woman just to turn it off because now you got to pay the $4 million, but now you can't talk about what got you to the point where you can make $4 million. So I do understand how she's kind of in this bind, but if you create your channel based on lies and they eventually get sued for it, then you got to be able to turn that corner. And I think that's the problem. Now she doesn't know how to turn the corner. What else am I going to talk about? Because my golden goose is now cooked.
Well, but the personality is also at play there, right? Like I totally agree that there's a different story with the remorseful person that said, God, I had 30,000 subscribers. I never even realized that it would get to this level or what I was saying or these kinds of things versus, nah, I'm fine. Like that's different to me in terms of interpreting. Cause I a great deal of sympathy for people trying to navigate. This is an obvious failure, but from people trying to navigate all sorts of laws, whether it's corporate transactions like me or other things, that if you explain to me how you faulted on this, how you were misled, or you have a personality type that's worthy of that second chance or believing in, that's one thing compared to, no, I didn't even take the videos down. I didn't even take the videos down. Okay.
Yeah,
it's a shame, but just imagine this. Go to your channel and take down your top 5 most popular videos.
Well, mine are already drips and drabs now. I don't have but by the time I'm a year out from one of those.
No problem, Nate. I just have YouTube do it for me.
Oh no. Oh no.
And I wonder about that too with the injunction. If she doesn't take it down, can Cardi B then take it to YouTube and force them to take it down?
No, but she you can go to court. Then after you're talking about contempt of court.
I know that too.
I mean, then they learn about cages at some point. I mean, the court.
Yeah, you're in trouble at that point with the injunction.
But no,
they agreed upon it. It was, they agreed upon the taking it down.
She still has to do it though.
Yeah, she has to. Or can they force YouTube to do it and then take it?
YouTube doesn't like to be forced to do anything.
Yeah, because the court order, the court would have to have jurisdiction over YouTube to force them to do anything, and I don't think they do in this case because YouTube isn't one of the parties unless you like a joinder or something to add them to it. But I don't. So I think even the injunction doesn't affect YouTube unless you're talking about like maybe a copyright issue or DMCA or something like that. Maybe a Cardi does something like that. But I don't even think she has that because it's Tasha K just talking.
Yeah, it's not actually using any of her material from what I've seen, other than just talking about her. It's crazy. These defamation cases are, they're nuts. But this one is just, it's one of my favorite ones to talk about because, like Rick, like you said, the fact that it's so rare to win a defamation case and the fact that, and the fact that she just like won so big on this one.
Oh yeah, but there's something to look forward to in the future because on March the 30th, the transcripts become available to the public from the trial.
Is that next
year? And I'm looking forward to that because Tasha K said that she didn't admit to anything on the stand, and she said we could read the transcripts for ourselves. I'm looking forward to it. Dramatic.
Or do you mean April 30th?
No, I mean, I meant May. But yeah.
Oh. Okay. I was like,
the other M1. Yes, the other M1, May the 30th.
If you look at the pleadings, though, she actually admitted to it in the deposition. So you can actually look at those now. Go and look at the amended complaint. Because I was surprised. But in the amended complaint, when they were doing it, they were like, no, in depositions, this is what she said. She said she knew they were lies and published it anyway in the deposition. So I'm not sure, but the lead attorney, who was the lead, shout out to the lead attorney. He was actually watching. He was actually at the trial, and he was the way he was doing it. He would attend the trial, and like he was doing the Joe Neerman thing, attend the trial during the day and live stream at night. So he heard when she said it on the stand. So she said it on the stand based on what he swore up, even though that's hearsay. But then also in the depositions that are up now, you can see she actually said that she not only knew it was false, but said it anyway for profit because she wanted to make money.
Nice.
See, this is one of those where I'm sympathetic to. You said the lead attorney. That's another YouTuber. I was thinking her lead attorney did this. He streamed the
Oh yeah.
No, but I was thinking. I'm sympathetic to counsel for clients like that. I don't know. I don't know what you do in that situation. Not a litigator. For those that don't know me, I'm a commercial transactions guy. But in all cases, when you're a lawyer, you represent somebody else, and they don't always have to follow your lead. They don't always have to listen to you, and they can do really weird stuff. And dealing with that is part of being a lawyer. But yeah, if you're deposed, if you're on the stand and you say, I lied. Like if you go down the list of the jury instructions, you just say, yeah, I did that. You're having a rough defense.
Right.
There's only so much that your attorney can do for you at that point, really. But I think one of the reasons though, why she did admit to it on the stand and probably in deposition was because I think that she had actually admitted to it in some other podcast or some other YouTube video. And so it's like, if you don't admit to it on the stand, then you're going to be impeached and impeached hard.
So was the defense some kind of version of like what we see from some news media, which is like none of this should be taken seriously, even when we say it like facts? It's all lies. Everybody should know that. Like, was that the attempt? I don't know this.
The defense was just trying to show that Cardi B was. In other words, it was trying to show that Cardi B was who she says she is. The plaintiff was trying to say Cardi B is a act. Right, it's my clown makeup. Right, I don't do drugs. I'm not a prostitute. That's just my performance piece. Right, that's not who I am. This woman is saying that's who I actually am. So that was kind of the plaintiff. The defendant was like, no, this is who she is, and they pointed to her fight with Nicki Minaj. They pointed to some of her songs. This is what she said. This is what she did to other people on Twitter to show that this was that a reasonable person would believe that this real person is, Cardi B is who she says she is. Yeah. But the thing that overcame that, because obviously that was going to be a problem, but the thing that overcame that was the fact that Cardi B reached out to her personally and said, hey, this is not true. The fact that she knew that the reports that she was getting were false. The person who actually broke the story with Tasha K initially, she was the one that presented Tasha K the evidence that all the stuff was fake. She's like, oh, this is here's all the evidence that's fake. And Tasha K, after getting that evidence, said in her deposition that she published the story earlier. Like she was supposed to publish the story like on Friday. She published it on a Wednesday because she knew the information that was debunking the story was going to come out on Friday. So she published it early so she can gain all those views. And she admitted to all this stuff.
That's a wild nap.
Yeah, so these are literally in the court documents, defendants, dates, and depositions. So that's why I said this was less of a trial than an execution, right? She was just going to the gallows to get hung.
Yeah, man, I don't understand the appeal. I don't understand it, but we will be here for it once that becomes available. Once that gets filed. Anyhow,
I feel like,
let me get. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I feel like she's just trying to hold on to the fame of being associated with Cardi B.
Could be.
But to lose the money about it, I don't know what she's gonna appeal. Or you admitted, or we'll see the transcripts. But apparently, she admitted to it.
I hope that you all will be down for a dramatic reenactment.
Yes.
Not based on what I just saw in the injunction. I'm not reading anything. I opt out.
We can censor it.
The parts of Tasha K will be played by legal minds and boss attorney.
No, I think
it sounds good.
I think boss attorney makes a good point. I think that's part of what happens is people do get infatuated with fame, and if it happened as rapidly as you suggest, Nate, where it was a bounce from like reporting on this person and then having your name associated with them in every news article for a while, if you're a specific kind of personality, that also can be hard to give up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she also said she doesn't have the money to pay it. So I know some of the arguments is that if she takes down the videos, then she's not making money off of YouTube in order to pay the judgment. But then she also says she's not paying it. So who knows what her position is.
I have no doubt that she doesn't have $4 million. But yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah, that's why we got to take these defamation laws a little bit seriously, right? Just a little bit when it comes to public figures. It's not that hard to defend against it.
It's a public person. I mean, that's the funny part to me. And it's like, I think honesty is good. I'm a lawyer, defender of the law. It's good that they're transparent in the deposition because that's the kind of thing that's so easy to say. Well, it's like, I didn't believe the evidence that was given to me, right? Like,
but you're saying I can grow my channel.
Yeah, I can
grow my channel to more than 1 million subs. What are the lies I'm supposed to not be repeating again?
Yeah, no, exactly.
Some videos.
Well, it is so easy for someone. This is why one of the reasons defamation is hard is it's so easy for that person to say, no, I thought there was enough there on the rumors. I did not act with malice. The evidence was presented to me. I didn't find it as credible as the stories that I was otherwise given. I mean, it's good that she was honest. Don't get me wrong, because it's just very hard to kind of suss that out if you've got a person that understands, why they're being sued.
Right. Right. Exactly. Let me get a couple super chats and then we're going to do one fun thing before we wrap up. All right.
Sure.
Hello, Nada. Sorry, I'm trying to read the name. Hello, Nada says, is Twitter monetized for users? If content gets censored in a way that impacts user income, would that be an actionable suit item?
Probably not. Would be up to the contract, but probably not.
Yeah. I would agree.
It's the same as us getting a video demonetized, right? I mean, it's they've got their terms of service, they got their community guidelines, they're ambiguous, they can do what they like. Yeah. So if you're making money off of their what do they call it now? Super follow.
Super follow.
Yeah.
No, I have not bothered to go through the application process for super follow. I don't really want to be associated with Twitter that strongly.
I'll super follow you.
You'll super follow me. All right. I'll just do it. There'll just be one tier. It'll just be up for uncivil. It'll be 10,000 a month. And that'll be good.
It's the uncivil tier.
It's just uncivil tier. That's right. It's when I get that second subscriber at that level, I'm like, who is that? No, but in general, they have the ability. They've given you a service, right? The ability to make money for yourself. Obviously, they take a cut for that. And you hope, like you hope with YouTube or you hope with anybody else that you're working on as a platform, that the alignment is enough, that their cut is sufficient enough for them to not cut the legs out from under you. Whether or not that works, I will leave to other videos. But they don't have an obligation to make sure that you can monetize your content. It's a service. So that contract is going to say, we can cut this off. We can ban any tweets. We can do whatever we want for anything that violates the community guidelines or that we otherwise find to be objectionable for Twitter. And that's going to be just very, very broad authority. And generally speaking, if it's one tweet or it's two tweets or whatever, it's not going to be worth it to pay, somebody like us to go and fight him in any event.
What do you think?
For sure.
You know what? Before we move on, I want to ask you guys about the new term of service that's going around to all the platforms. So after the David Dobrik incident where he had something happen off platform, so YouTube suspended him for that, and then came out and was like, "Hey, we can suspend you for off platform content." Now all the platforms are doing that. So the idea is if Nate the lawyer, the YouTuber, gets into some problems outside, that could harm YouTube, Twitter, and all these other places. So together they can all ban me for things that I've done that has nothing to do with YouTube, nothing to do with the internet. Nothing, I could just be got into a drunk driving accident.
Yep.
How do you guys? I think that
I hate it.
That's a problem in the sense of.
Personally, I hate it. Not to say that I plan on getting into any kind of trouble that would implicate me in any of my social media platforms, but. They have the ability to do that. It's been actually they've all been doing it for a while now. I think it's been like
it's been in there since virtual legality started.
Okay.
Because I did the terms of service.
Start with Patreon, where they were the ones taking people down and killing their Patreons.
Patreon started to do that a lot now too. They've been coming down with the hammer for a lot of people.
Yeah, that's why I had a Patreon briefly, and I'm like, I don't think I want to go down the Patreon route.
You just do me. I just expand it. I just have multiple platforms now. No, it is absolutely in the terms of service, and more problematically, right? So now I've gone through Facebook's, Twitter's, YouTube's, Twitch's. I think I've gone through all the big guns. If you'd like to see terms of service reviewed in virtual legality, leave me a note. But in those terms of service, almost always there's a provision that basically says, if we think it harms us on a reputational basis, not just business, then we can take it down. We can ban it. We can suspend you. We can take negative actions. And that's built in somewhere in some paragraph, in some sentence, in every one of them, and it always has been. I think Twitch is a little bit clearer. I'm trying to make sure I get my terms of service right, that actually has a provision that says doesn't matter whether it's on platform or off platform, which I find better. I mean, I like transparency, right? These guys are already going to be ambiguous. They're going to do what they want. I like it to be known to the users when I oftentimes don't think that is in fact the case. So YouTube has that one sentence that says we can do bad things to you or your videos if we find it to be, and then, it's got commas and multiple provisos, and you have to highlight it in a specific way to show that if we find it to be reputational harmful to us, like no other reason, we just don't want to be associated with you. And it's like, okay, well, everybody needs to know that. Everybody needs to understand that you're walking on a tightrope over a canyon when you put stuff on other people's platforms. If you understand that transparently, hopefully that's one thing that my channel does, is say like this.
That's why I'm praying to Lord Elon to save us all.
Right. Well, and the problem is when Lord Elon puts the ring on, he might also be taken over. So you don't know.
This is true.
It's easier to make the comments that he makes before he owns a social media platform. It's always an open question.
Totally true. So these terms of service they have the ability to do it. They've been doing it for a long time. I personally hate it. I don't like the fact that they can reach into our personal lives and say, I don't like that you did this thing, so therefore you will be canceled entirely from this platform. And then the next platform says, yeah, us too. But at the same time, I do also understand from the opposite perspective that, you know, as a brand, they don't necessarily want to be associated with certain controversies and whatnot. So, I mean, and especially when you get to platforms that are, or I guess influencers, people on these platforms that are much more influential, and then they have these bigger controversies, that it becomes much more of a brand partnership kind of looking optic, I guess you could say. So I understand that aspect of it too. But I just, it's rough. It's rough that you can truly have everything in your immediate life and digital life just completely destroyed, blown up all in one. It's scary to me.
Right. Well, and there's a distinction between, like, you know, an assault claim and a provocative political position. And I think people are always wary of that, right? Okay, Hogue gave a quote we didn't like to a games journalist, and should everything come down from that? And like, there's a concern there because you see some tiptoeing around the edges. Right now, they're mostly sticking to alleged crimes, at least, although they're not waiting really until the crimes are more than alleged for the most part. But you're exactly right. You can see, how do you describe someone that puts videos on YouTube? I mean, in an article, they're going to be called a YouTuber, and that becomes a problem for the brand, right? Like you're going to be associated in this article about sexual assault as a YouTuber. And so you start to have issues like down the line with all of that type of stuff. And so, like, I'm a corporate lawyer. I'm sympathetic to those problems while also being a YouTuber and looking at it and saying, well, that's a black box of hell. This is an awful thing to depend on as Google and YouTube, which is why I think if you get to a certain size, and it ain't my size, if you get to a certain size, you really should be exploring, like, you're going to have to fundamentally mirror the platform capabilities somewhere else, because otherwise you're betting way too much on the indiscriminate whims of somebody in some office that you may or may not ever know the name of, deciding that you are more of a problem than a help for a giant mega multinational corporation.
Yep. Yeah. Completely agree. One last super chat, Aaron Catron. Thank you so much for the super chat. Well, now let's do one fun, I guess we'll call it, is it legal? I'm going to share a video.
Depends.
And it depends.
Okay, so Uncivil already got the right answer, and we didn't even need to watch it.
Oh, man. Well, this is something that was shared from Twitter. And this is going to be a fun little, I guess, sort of a bar question. You guys just shout it out when you see it, okay? I don't know if this will be...
It's a hell of a description.
Oh, I've seen this before.
Okay. So... I don't want to give any context for it. Let's just start into it. This is in New Orleans. You see a car pulling up next to a big pickup truck. Guy comes out, smashes the window. Jumping on in, and what's going to happen? Flashbang. And they drive away. So, is it legal? I'm not necessarily saying for the guy jumping into the car, but for the owner of the car.
But I think most jurisdictions are going to have a string-loaded shotgun provision in their defensive property rules. So I would argue that it is likely not legal in most places where this would happen.
Well, I see. I'm going to depart from you because the spring-loaded shotgun for sure, because the lethal force. But here it's a non-lethal force.
Oh, there's so many stories of people dying to flashbangs. Heck, we see it all the time, right? I mean, we just had infants get burned alive by a flashbang in a police raid here in Southeast Michigan.
Okay, I didn't know that. Thanks for that detail. That picks my boarding right up.
I'm sorry about that. But I mean, like, that's you know, when you talk about tear gas and pepper spray and flashbangs as non-lethal, that can be like the predominant thing. But like, let's say that guy had actually had his hair light on fire and took severe burns or something along those lines. Clearly not legal, right? Like, you don't have the right to burn someone for breaking into your car.
Right. So this video brought me right back to 1L year property law, where we learned about the exactly. Can you defend your property, and to what extent, you know, what can you use to defend your property? So, you know, this is the using a flashbang would be considered a defense of property, but the fact that it is potentially lethal means that it probably is not legal to use that to defend your property. So
right, and they could have characterizations, they could have categories in the jurisdictions. I mean, these are the kinds of gray area rules there. You really do get into municipal rules and county rules and sheriff's rules and state rules. Yeah.
Also, this is also Louisiana. So Louisiana is crazy because it's unlike any other state. They've got all kinds of crazy different laws and rules and the way that they work. So that's also the big wild card is that can also change anything in this analysis is that we are talking about Louisiana.
Since it's Louisiana, there's a decent chance there's a provision in their state constitution regarding this because they have the longest constitution in the world by some length. It is humongous.
Right. Well, I don't know if your law school was the same. I mean, Alita's not overselling it. My law school was like, these are mostly applicable concepts in everywhere but Louisiana. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
I don't think Louisiana even has it doesn't even have Title II of the UCC.
Yeah,
I don't think they do UCC. They're civil code, right? Because
who doesn't have the UCC?
Common law,
right? They don't use common law precedent.
And the history behind that is because they were part of the Louisiana Purchase. They operated originally on the Napoleonic Code.
Right.
So they've got their roots in French law as opposed to English common law. So that's where a lot of their differences come from. Which, of course, if you talk to a French lawyer, they will say, well, of course, French law is best law and everything makes sense and everything is perfect. And I don't understand why nobody else uses what we do.
Don't get me wrong. Common law.
I've literally had that conversation.
Louisiana, I think Louisiana was one of the last states that let you take the bar or get barred without going to law school at all. I mean, I think
California is one.
Okay.
You can in California. You have to go through a whole program. Kim Kardashian has been trying to do that. She's been
Virginia
taking
still
the
has
baby
that
bar.
floating around.
Yeah, New York still has that program too.
Yeah, for just reading for law.
Okay.
I think doesn't New York require you to go to like 1 year of law school though?
I'm not sure. I didn't think, but I know that you can do the whole I forgot what they call it here, but like the apprentice program for a couple of years and then sit for the bar.
I think we should go back to an apprentice system. It would have been great for me out of law school, and that'd been good.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you on that. I think that an apprentice system probably would be beneficial for a lot of people.
But don't forget though the ABA, the American Bar Association, and the LSAT. They make so much money off those exams and it just would be crazy. And the fact that all the states have passed that legislation where you have to be from an ABA approved school, accredited school to even so all that money's
racket.
It's a racket.
It's too easy.
No, I used to say the LSAT doesn't prepare you for law school. The law school doesn't prepare you for the bar, and the bar doesn't prepare you for practice.
Nope, it does not.
Yeah.
Let me get a couple super chats, and then we'll head out of here because
this is a law school, not a lawyer school. That's what I want to punch somebody in the face.
The fancier you go up the T14, the more that it is. It's still Aristotelian examination of legal concepts. We do not teach you to be a lawyer.
This is true. This is very true. Andy the Game Maker says, I'm the hot take mouthpiece for Legal Bites. Every outrageous comment I make is because she told me to say it. Let's talk about abortion. Oh my God. My brother.
Oklahoma versus California. Fight.
He's gonna get me in trouble someday. IFID.
Are you more an Oklahoma girl or more a California girl here?
I'm not going to start that discussion. IFID says, I didn't know Moon Knight got a pickup truck. Awesome. So, well, that for me about does it. I've got to head out, but this has been a really great discussion. Thank you to everyone for joining me again. I'm always thrilled when people are able to join me for Latest in the Law, and we talk about some random subjects. And today was not not unlike the others. I love these conversations that we get into. So thank you so much for joining me. Anybody have any last thoughts before we go?
No, like I said, I'm still covering Microsoft and Activision. They've got some weird antitrust stuff from the FTC. Just put a video up if you're interested in that at all. FTC seems to be using Microsoft potentially as an example to expand their own antitrust interpretation. potentially beyond the bounds of Sherman and Clayton. So pretty interesting, especially if you like video games, and also antitrust law, which I know is a huge audience. So check that out.
Well, 15 minutes. We have a new Supreme Court justice who's going to be confirmed in 15 minutes. So
Is the full Senate voting today?
Yeah, they're voting at 1:45 for the confirmation vote. So,
good.
All right.
And they got 3 Republicans, so she's going to be obviously.
So what is the count up to at this point?
53 Republicans.
53.
I mean, 53 total, with 3 Republicans.
So I had set the 50. I had set the over under at 54. So I feel pretty good about that. That point.
Yeah, there may be some more who join, but right now it's
I think you still have odds to get 54.
Yeah. So anyhow, well, I haven't yet linked everyone in the description below, but I will. If you'd
like to learn more about our Supreme Court justice, you can go to my channel and I'll read and you can watch me read the entire transcript of our sentencing hearing and relating to the CP. It's fun times had for the whole family.
Oh my goodness.
You guys are crazy with these transfers.
You're not allowed to use fun times for the whole family with that subject matter, uncivil.
Right. Definitely not.
It's fun times for the 8-year-olds, the 10-year-olds, and the 12-year-ds.
Oh,
in particular.
no. Oh, no.
There's just going to be a beep, and then the stream's going to be cut off.
All of a sudden, all the colored bars show up.
Yeah, old school style.
Alrighty. Well, that about does it. Otherwise, next week, Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard trial kicks off on Monday. We are live streaming starting on Tuesday, assuming that they only take one day to select the jury. So the judge seems to think that they can do it in a day. So if so, we are live streaming first thing on Tuesday morning, and from beginning to end, we are doing all of it. So be sure to be here. You guys are obviously all invited to join for that. Pop in whenever you can. It's going to be a lot of fun. So anyway, with that, I guess we'll say I'll see you in the next video.
Bye.
Bye.